So let's jump into the research. I am thrilled to announce our keynote speaker, Ignacia Uribe. Ignacia has worn so many hats in the movement. She's a journalist, the founder and director of Fundación Veg, which now operates in 5 Latin American countries, a speaker who has spread a vegan message across the world, and an author, one of whom I actually have her book, and it's quite good. I would recommend it. Today, she will explore how data can change your life and your activism. So, without further ado, I'm honored to present Ignacia Uribe.
Hi, my name is Ignacia Uribe, and today I want to tell you my story about how data can change your career, your activism, or even your life. First of all, a few quick data about me. I quit meat while I was in high school, and today I am the happy mom of 2 children that have never eaten meat in their lives. Also, my first book was published last year, and I have never watched Star Wars, not had a cup of coffee. And finally, I am a journalist and I love data. And this is because I quickly realized that many times numbers can speak louder than words. And if we learn how to read them, if we learn that language, it really can lead us to amazing things. So let's see how data changed my own life. My first memory of data changing my life was probably around 20 years ago. I was already a vegetarian, but I live in the darkness regarding the size of the animal issue. That completely changed when I found an online calculator that was running incredibly fast, showing how many animals were killed every second. I stared at it, trying to swallow this new information, and also trying to follow these numbers with my eyes, but it was impossible. And when you think that every one of those numbers was an individual with their own personality, memory, and willing to live, it's simply devastating. That day, my life changed because I saw for the first time the size of the problem, and then I decided to take action. Today, estimation says that almost 3,000 animals are killed for food every second. But the truth is that it's impossible to know the exact number because fish and other aquatic animals are counted by tons and not as individuals. The second data that changed my life was precisely one from Faunalytics. In 2014, I had already founded a blog to help animals called Vegetarianos Chile, which was the genesis of Veg Foundation. One day, I ran into a study from Faunalytics that said that 84% of vegans and vegetarians abandon their diets, 50% of them during their first year. I was in panic because I realized that despite all of our efforts, every time we move 5 steps forward, then we went 4 steps backward. Was it possible to change the world for animals like that? Maybe at a very slow pace, or maybe not at all. So after learning these numbers, I decided to dedicate my life to help all people to stick with veganism as longer as they could and as much as I could. So today, this is the mission of Veg Foundation, which is my full-time job and is also a big portion of my life. Last year, as part of my role as CEO of Veg Foundation, I published my first book. And while investigating it, to write it, I ran into 2 data that blew my mind because they were shaped in a way that is very easy to understand. The first one is that every day, more farm animals die in the world than the millions of people who lost their lives in both world wars. And second is that since humanity began, there have been around 100 billion human beings on Earth, almost the same number of animals that we kill in 1 year just for food. You can say when you read both that you ever could think that we as humans are in a war against animals. And here comes data again, helping you choose your battles. For instance, when I joined the movement, I knew nothing about lying hens. I thought the largest problem that we had was the killing of chicken and pigs. But then I discovered that hens are the land animal that suffer the most because of how many they are, how long they live in cages, and the terrible condition of their lives. Other issue we want to solve is with shrimps. Because of their size, they are the most farmed animal on Earth. Every year, hundreds of billions of shrimps are slaughtered, and for most people, it isn't even a problem because they are too small to count or even to worry about. So you can choose to tackle one of these issues directly when you learn this data, or you also can choose a more indirect one, as food waste. Every year, there are 18 billion farm animals that are simply wasted. This means that they are raised and killed but never consumed. This is huge because if we could prevent food waste, for instance, campaigning for people buying just the exact amount of meat they are actually going to eat and no more than that, we could save so many lives. But almost no one is working on this. Also, from firsthand, I can tell you that data can help you win. For example, last year, we did an Ipsos survey here in Chile, and we got these two interesting data. 51% of Chileans agree that purchases made by public institutions should promote the acquisition of plant-based products. And 45% of Chileans agree that subsidies with public funds should be provided to the food production industry of plant-based alternatives. So we took this data and went to speak with the media and public institutions. After that, this year, we got 3 major wins, in part because of this data supporting us. The first one was that after many years of conversation with them, 2024 is the first year that all Chilean public schools have one plant-based day, which is on Tuesdays. This means more than 1 million of meal change every month. Second win is that the Agricultural Ministry pledged to be 50% plant-based by 2025 in all its institutional dining rooms. Of course, this wouldn't have been possible without our data showing public support, because as you may know, politicians care about it the most. And the third one is that the Environmental Ministry updated their purchases guideline to buy only plant-based and vegetarian products for the institutional caterings. This will save thousands of animals, and also it will send a message and hopefully inspire other public offices to do the same. Last but not least, data can help you embrace new opportunities and new challenges. And I want to start with a challenge and tell you that data is not only in scientific studies, it is also out there in the street and in the market. And this issue for me is very important, but I haven't seen it being discussed inside our movement. Beyond Meat Stock, probably one of the few plant-based companies that is on the stock market, has lost 96% of its value in 5 years. In 2019, they opened in $25, and they went up to more than 150. At that time, we could use this example in meetings with restaurant chains and governments, showing how the world was going in that direction. Today, the stock price is $6. If the company disappears in the near future, it will be bad for all our movement. So I believe we should start thinking, how can we make it better? I think that at least this should be part of our conversation, and we should start talking about this. And here, there is another example, probably a more easy one, of an opportunity we discovered through the same Ipsos survey I told you before. In it, we also learned that Chilean people are very keen to try cultured meat. So we already started making connections with that new industry, and we are thinking, what could we do to accelerate it? For instance, we could invite the Chilean president to try it. So after all this, I want to leave you all with a question that I hope you can answer after Fauna Connections today. What is the data that you learn that have the power to change your life, your career, or your activism? I hope you find it here today. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you for that wonderful presentation, Ignacia. In a moment, you will join us and we're going to start the Q&A. For the audience, if you have any questions for her, please put them in the Q&A section and I will make sure to get them asked. There you are. Okay, perfect. So right now, welcome. Very good speech. While the audience is thinking of some questions, I guess I will start with one of my own. What are the biggest categories of data that you think the animal advocacy movement needs the most? What do you think are the biggest picture things that we should be looking at?
I think we're in a very good path. Actually, with this event, I'm very happy, like what you explained at the beginning, like how is the day organized. I think that's amazing. But I also think that we should start looking outside the studies and the research as like the problem with the Beyond Meat that I put in the presentation, that data is everywhere. So I think we need also to be aware of that kind of things and be looking like everywhere.
Okay, great answer. So Bastian asks, do you know if politicians actively look for data on animal welfare?
Sorry, on what?
Are politicians actively looking for data related to animal welfare?
I don't think they are, at least in Latin America, I don't think they are actively looking for that kind of data, but I think that kind of data can help us as activists and, well, professional activists, as I consider myself, because I work on this. I think those kind of data help us in one way to shape our work, because of course there are so many issues and we cannot tackle everything at the same time. But at the same time, as the Ipsos survey we did, I think that kind of data shows the support the public is giving to different animal issues. And those kind of data really impact in the government or politicians or public institutions, because their main goal, I think, is to stay in their positions. So they want to make the public happier. And if they see they can take a path to help animals, maybe not because they really care for animals, but they will do it because they want to make their voters happier.
Great answer. I think that's one of the ways we can leverage data to make real change. Okay. Michelle wants to know, who is your primary audience when sharing data? Is it people on the street or politicians or some sort of mix or anybody else?
I think we have two. One is politicians and public institutions, and the other one is the public, like the general opinion, because I think we can also influence public opinion through, for example, media. I'm a journalist, so many times we do surveys ourselves, not always with Ipsos because it's a little bit expensive, but we also do other kind of surveys and we show data to the public opinion. And then you start like shaping this public opinion in a way that they see more data about animals and they also start caring most about animals. In July, for example, we had a very big news coverage of fish here in Chile. because we went to the Congress and we said some data there that was like very impactful. And then they tried to make fun of us in the media, but I think the media was like, oh, this is a very good story. And then we got fish like almost in 60 or more media in Chile, in Latin America. And it was amazing. Like people were talking about fish everywhere and the sentience of fishes. So I think like we should take those opportunities also.
Great answer. Okay. Lucas is asking, do you think the same progress could be made in other South American countries? Or is there something very special and pro-veg about the Chilean people?
I think, well, Chile is a very uncommon country in Latin America because we are a very small country. We are like 18 million people. We are not that small as Uruguay, for example, that is like 2 or 3, or Panama, but we are still very small. With 18 million people, you always know someone that knows someone. So you always can know someone that, I don't know, like works in a media newspaper or that works in the Congress. So it's kind of easy to get to the people. Actually, I have friends that know the president, for example. I don't know him myself, but I have friends that know him. So I think it's more easy to do things, and it's also a very, for example, we have more cell phones than people. So everyone is very connected to internet, and I think that also it's like a background that we have to have in the context when we speak to. I think we can also make another well, we can make this kind of progress in other Latin countries, but of course it's more difficult. But there are things that we all share. For example, the political power here in Latin America is very linked to the land. Like the many politicians everywhere in Chile, Argentina, Colombia, Mexico, they come from families that have land, and of course it means animals. So maybe themselves they don't, but they have the money also from the industry. So I think that sometimes the talents are the same, but yeah, also for us in my organization, Chile is like a lab, like where you can try some things, and then if they work, we try them somewhere else.
That's a great answer. And I think it helps identify why research needs to be regional and based in the context, essentially, of the culture that you're working in, which is a big theme, I think, of today. And I'm excited to explore that more later. We have time, I believe, for one more question. Just for the audience, I'm going through the questions based on the number of upvotes. So if you like a particular question, you can upvote it for the talks in the future. So Pratishka, I hope I pronounced that correctly, says, I would like to know how the plant-based day in public school was achieved. What processes were involved, and how could we make this happen in India or perhaps another country?
Yeah, well, it was such a process because we started conversations with them many years ago. I'll say 2018, more or less. The first meetings, 2018, 2019, then the pandemic came. We were almost ready to launch Meatless Monday, not for public schools, but they also have another program for universities where they give like a check to the students, and they can like go with this check and buy things in different places. So we were doing something before the pandemic with them, like a guides where they can have like vegan products or plant-based products with these checks for people in universities. But they always told us that in public schools it would be very difficult because usually it has like many issues. The public schools catering is always like with an issue. But what happened was that during the last presidential campaign, we got Gabriel Boric, which is our president, and he's like millennial. He has like, I don't know, 38 years old. He signed a commitment with the organization of 10 points. And the first one is to promote plant-based products in public institutions. Like, it's very general. It doesn't say one plant-based day at school or one plant-based day in different places. But with this, after that, we came back and we say, okay, so we have now a presidential commitment that we have to go forward on this. And I think they check internally also with the presidential team, and they say, yeah, like, we're okay with this. So there were like also tables that were like conversation tables, as are told in Spanish. I don't know the name in English, but it was like a focus group of people. And also what we did is that they have like internal elections for people to join their, like a board of people that give advice also to HUNAEB, which is this office. And I went to the elections and I was elected also, like one of the 8 or 12 people that is in that board. So we got like these many different things going on. And at the end last year, they say, okay, for next year's, because they open like a public acquisition every year, and they put in the rules that one day must be plant-based. But we had talks with everyone, conversations with everyone. Actually, we wanted that on Mondays because that was the first idea, like Meatless Monday. But it was very difficult. For example, we learned that it was very difficult to put the legumes on water on Sundays. Of course, it was going to be impossible. So that's why it is on Tuesdays. And they started this year with all students from 14 to 18 years old in the whole country. It's very good.
Okay, I'm so excited to hear about this amazing initiative. That is unfortunately all the time we have for Ignacia. However, if you want to ask her some more questions or have some more discussion, you can join the breakout room at the end of the first module. With that, I hope everybody has a wonderful symposium, and I am going to turn over the moderation hat to Homer.